Young and the Restless. Billy drops jaw-dropping offer. Phyllis tempted into steamy danger. All right, so this week, Phyllis is furious with Victor. She went and asked him if Jabot is going down because of the Newman media thing, and he says, yeah, it looks that way. And Phyllis reminds Victor that their deal was Phyllis would give Victor the AI she stole from Kane Ashby, Billy Flynn, and Victor would give Phyllis Jabot so she could run it. But after Victor had Adam Newman, Mark Grossman, run that hit piece on Newman Media, there may not be a company left for Phyllis to get her hands on. And Victor was trying to say he'll keep his word. But Phyllis isn't buying it because Victor has broken his word to Phyllis before. He has done her dirty in so many countless ways that it's insane that she's even talking to Victor when Phyllis should never even be in a room with him. So, she's going to keep pushing Victor the first think, until he admits he doesn't give a good gosh darn if Phyllis gets what she wants or not. Because Victor has the AI and he feels invincible, and what Phyllis wants doesn't matter. His word to her doesn't matter. And now she's enraged because nothing is going her way. She is just spiraling out. Kane just told Phyllis he despises her. So she has lost her bed buddy and she is jealous that he's panting after Lily Winters, Crystal Khalil, again. Phyllis has been going around Genoa City and been bragging to everybody about how she's about to blow up big in the business world. But she's the same that she has been for a long time. Phyllis has no man, no job, and very few friends. And her family's giving her side eye. And now Victor has piled onto all of that by betraying her. The Abbotts' desperate plan to reclaim stolen AI on YandR. Meanwhile, Jack Abbott, Peter Bergman, and the Abbotts have realized Phyllis is the key to eliminating Victor's AI threat once and for all. So, Billy has been tasked to go bargain with Phyllis. And official Young and the Restless spoilers say Billy does make a deal with Phyllis by the end of this week. So Billy told Jack and Diane Jenkins, Susan Walters, that Phyllis is only loyal to herself. But if Billy can find something Phyllis really wants, then she will probably cooperate. The Abbotts want her to steal the AI back from Victor and give it to them. And Diane wants to know what exactly Billy and Jack are willing to offer Phyllis. And Jack said, they need to offer her just about anything because this is about saving Jabot and the family legacy. So, seems like Billy has permission to dangle something big. And it looks like they do find some kind of ground to meet on, and he finds something that Phyllis wants 'cause by Thursday, that's when Billy has cut a deal with Phyllis. Exploring Billy's potential offers to Phyllis on Young and the Restless. So, that has me wondering what exactly is the deal, and one thing Billy might offer Phyllis is a major role at YandRCom. You remember she was involved with the initial setup, and she was ready to work with Billy. She was super excited, but she was spiraling out. And so Billy axed her and said it was for her own good. Then he replaced her with Sally Spectra, Courtney Hope. And of course, Phyllis became completely unhinged about that. We do know that Billy and Phyllis can work well together and can be a good team, but Billy isn't the CEO of YandRCom. Sally is, and she would absolutely hate it if Billy promised Phyllis, Michelle Stafford, any role at YandRCom. Even the janitor, never mind a major role. But on the other hand, Sally is very worried about Billy's family. She likes the Abbotts. She feels really bad for them, and I know Sally would help them if she could. So, I could see her suck it up and just deal with Phyllis working at YandRCom if it meant getting the AI away from Victor and saving Jabot. Bill brings Phyllis on at Jabot. Another thing Billy may offer Phyllis is a major role at Jabot. If that happened though, Diane would lose her whole entire mind. But Jack and Billy are desperate, and I'm sure Diane would rather bring Phyllis on board rather than let Jack's family legacy go down the drain. Right. So also Jabot is Kyle Abbott's, Michael Mealer, legacy and also Harrison Locke's, Redding Munsell legacy. And Diane and Phyllis do share Harrison as a grandson, even though Diane seems to be the only one that hangs out with the kid. So like Sally, I think Diane would suck it up for the good of the family. But I also think that at the first possible chance she would run Phyllis out of Jabot. A vow of vengeance and a chance for redemption on YandR. So Billy may also promise Phyllis that if she steals the program and gives it to them that he and Jack will use the AI against Newman Enterprises to destroy Victor's legacy. That way, Phyllis and Jack and Billy would all get revenge on Victor. But Phyllis could have clean hands and would be risk-free for her. And of course, Jack would be on board to crush Victor and make sure he can't ever come after the Abbotts again. At this point, Jack's just defending himself and his family. Victor's the one who took the first swing, and we know Phyllis would love to see Victor lose everything. Also, Billy could promise Phyllis that Jack and the Abbotts will invest in whatever company that Phyllis wants to start of her own. She keeps talking about starting something new, but she was just plotting to take over Jack's company. But if they invest in her, Phyllis could legit have her own company. Remember how happy she was when she built and ran the Grand Phoenix? I mean, honestly, if Jack invested in Phyllis, that might be the best case rather than bringing her on board one of their existing family businesses. And last, one intriguing offer that Billy might make Phyllis, instead of offering her the keys to the kingdom or a big important job with a title. Maybe Billy offers Phyllis nothing but a shot at redemption and gives Phyllis a threat to go with it. Because this week, Daniel Romalotti, Michael Graziade, was going off on his mom with accusations. He told Phyllis that he doesn't trust her. Daniel can see right through her. He knows Phyllis is lying, and that she's guilty and somehow involved in the bad things that are going on with Jabot. And she got all defensive and crazy, and then acted mad at Daniel. Typical things that happen when you accuse a guilty person of what they did. And then Phyllis basically ran away from his accusations, which only further convinced Daniel that his mom Phyllis is hiding something wicked. Daniel tells Summer his suspicions on YandR. So then Daniel called up Summer Newman, Allison Lanier, and said their mom is neck-deep in the issues that Jabot is having. So Billy may threaten to tell Daniel and Summer that Phyllis stole the AI from Kane and gave it to Victor, and her price was Jabot. That would be a deal-breaker for Phyllis's kids. There's no way Daniel would accept it. Summer absolutely wouldn't because her company, Marchetti, is part of Jabot, and now her company's in deep dada because of Phyllis. So I think Billy might tell Phyllis he and Jack and the others will cover for her and not tell her kids what she did so Daniel and Summer don't hate her. And all Phyllis has to do is steal the AI back from Victor. Easy peasy, right? I mean, this last one is actually the option I'd like to see happen, that Phyllis comes out of this with nothing, because that's what she deserves for all her lying and conniving. But we'll see what Billy offers. The floor-to-ceiling windows of the Abbott mansion, casting long, golden shadows across the mahogany furniture. But inside, the atmosphere was anything but serene. Billy Abbott paced the length of the room, his jaw tight, a restless energy radiating from him that usually signaled one of two things: a brilliant business move or a complete emotional meltdown. When the doorbell rang, he didn't wait for the housekeeper. He flung the door open to find Phyllis Summers standing there, looking every bit the Phoenix, in a Crimson Power suit and a smile that promised trouble. "You sounded urgent on the phone, Billy," Phyllis said, breezing past him into the foyer. Usually when an Abbott calls this many times, someone's either getting sued or getting married. Which is it? Billy closed the door with a firm click. Neither. It's better. Or worse, depending on how much skin you're willing to put in the game. The setup, a high-stakes gamble. Phyllis poured herself a drink from the sideboard, her eyes scanning Billy's face. She knew that look. It was the look he wore when he was playing a hand he shouldn't have been dealt. "I'm listening," she murmured, leaning back against the cool marble. "Chancellor Winters is a mess," Billy began, his voice dropping to a low, urgent tone. "Jill is breathing down my neck, Devon is playing holier than thou, and Lily is drifting. I need a disruptor. Someone who doesn't play by the rules because she doesn't even recognize the board." Phyllis let out a dry laugh. "You want me to come work for you? Again? Billy, we've done that dance. It ends in fire and HR complaints." "No," Billy countered, stepping into her personal space. "I don't want you to work for me. I want you to take over a shadow subsidiary I'm spinning off. It's a tech-driven media wing designed to dismantle the Newmans' grip on the narrative in this town. It's called Ether. It's fast, it's aggressive, and it's legally gray." The jaw-dropping offer. Billy leaned in closer, the scent of expensive bourbon and desperation clinging to him. "I'll give you 49% ownership. No oversight. No board meetings. Just a blank check, and the directive to burn Victor Newman's legacy to the ground." Phyllis froze. Ownership. Real, tangible power. This wasn't just a job, it was a throne. But she knew Billy. "What's the catch? You don't give away half a kingdom for free." "The catch," Billy said, his eyes darkening, "is that we do this together. Totally off the grid. If we get caught, we both go down. But if we win, we own Genoa City." Steamy tension and dangerous alliances. The air between them thickened. For years, Billy and Phyllis had cycled through friendship, rivalry, and a brief, scorching romance that left them both scarred. Seeing him like this, raw, ambitious, and reckless, awakened something in Phyllis she had been trying to suppress. "You're asking me to go to war with you," Phyllis whispered. "I'm asking you to be the partner I know you are," Billy replied. He reached out, his hand hovering just inches from her waist. "Everyone else wants to manage you, Phyllis. They want to tone you down. I want to turn you up." The danger wasn't just professional, it was visceral. Phyllis felt the familiar spark of adrenaline. Working with Billy was like playing with liquid nitrogen, thrilling until it touched your skin. "Victor will come for us," she warned, though her eyes were shining. "And Jack. If Jack finds out you're using me to sabotage the Newmans, he'll never forgive you." "Let them come," Billy shrugged, his gaze dropping to her lips. "I'm tired of playing it safe. Aren't you?" The breaking point. In a sudden, impulsive move, Phyllis grabbed the lapels of Billy's jacket, pulling him toward her. "If I do this, Billy, there's no turning back." "No, oops, I grew a conscience halfway through. We go all the way." "I've never been more certain of anything," he groaned, before crashing his lips against hers. It was a kiss born of shared trauma, mutual ambition, and a desperate need for something more. It was messy, intense, and fundamentally dangerous. In that moment, the business deal became a pact sealed in fire. The fallout, a town divided. As the news of the partnership leaked, as Billy knew it would, the shockwaves ripped through Genoa City. At society, Victor Newman slammed his cane against the floor. "That boy is a fool, and that woman is a viper. They think they can challenge me? I'll crush them before the first press release." At the Abbott mansion, Jack Abbott looked at his brother with a mix of pity and fury. "You're bringing her back into the fold? After everything? You're not building a company, Billy. You're building an incinerator." At Chancellor Winters, Devin and Lily watched the stock prices fluctuate, realizing that Billy had gone rogue in the most spectacular way possible. The danger zone. Phyllis, now ensconced in a sleek, black-on-black office at the top of the towers, felt the walls closing in. The steamy danger wasn't just her rekindled flame with Billy. It was the legal minefield they were walking. To fund Ether, Billy had moved funds through offshore accounts that bypassed Jill's oversight. It was embezzlement in everything but name. And Phyllis? She was using her hacking skills to dig up dirt on Nicky Newman's private foundation. They were high on the power, spending late nights in the office that often ended with clothes scattered across the designer rugs and the city lights shimmering below. But the higher they climbed, the further there was to fall. The ultimate betrayal? One night, while Billy was asleep on the sofa in her office, Phyllis found a hidden file on his laptop. It wasn't about the Newmans. It was an exit strategy. The document outlined a plan to sell Ether to a third party the moment the Newmans were weakened. A sale that would leave Phyllis with the legal liability while Billy walked away with the cash and a clean reputation. Her heart hammered against her ribs. Was the jaw-dropping offer just a long con? Was the passion they had rediscovered just a way to keep her distracted while he set her up to take the fall? Phyllis stood over him, a glass of ice-cold water in her hand, tempted to wake him up with a splash and a scream. But she paused. She was Phyllis Summers. She didn't get mad, she got even. If Billy wanted to play a dangerous game, she would show him that she was the Grandmaster. 2-week spoilers December 15th to 26th. Nikki boils over in rage, Adam faces brutal punishment. Monday, December 15th, we've got Victor Newman, Eric Braden. Pivoting because the Jabot shutdown means that the AI won't work. So he calls Adam and pulls him away from the AbbottCom launch party to run an ASAP hit piece on Newman Media, trashing Jack Abbott's, Peter Bergman, reputation for this move. Even though Michael Baldwin, Christian Jules LeBlanc, and Adam try to talk Victor out of this dirty move. Kane Ashby, Billy Flynn, pushes away from Phyllis Summers, Michelle Stafford, kiss and says she's a backstabbing liar and he's done with her. Phyllis knows that Kane is going to the launch party with Lily Winters, Crystal Khalil, and suggests that Daniel Romalotti, Michael Graziade, go with her, but he insists that Tessa Porter, Kate Fairbanks, come along, even though Phyllis pulls a big face over that. Lily makes Kane get dressed up in 50s gear as well. And her family gripes about Lily bringing Kane, even though she insists it's not a date. Victoria Newman, Amelia Heinley, is there with Nate Hastings, Sean Dominic, also insisting it's not a date. And Devin Hamilton, Brighton James, and Abby Newman, Melissa Ordway, are there as well. Phyllis has murderous eyes on Kane and Lily when she sees them having a good time and laughing together at the launch party. Billy Abbott isn't happy to see Kane there, but Sally Spectra, Courtney Hope, says it's fine, he can stay. But she's not happy to see Phyllis there. And Billy admits he's the one who put on the guest list because he wants to rub their success in her face. The Abbotts also don't like seeing Kane there. And Diane Jenkins, Susan Walters, gripes about it to Devin and Abby. Kyle Abbott, Michael Mealer, is there with his parents, Jack and Diane, and they all congratulate Sally. Young and the Restless 2-week spoilers. AbbottCom party interrupted. Then as Billy and Sally are making their toast and speeches, the Newman Media hit piece on Jack goes live. Everybody at the party sees it. Diane and Jack are stunned and angry. Billy tries to gloss over it, but it's clearly overshadowing their YandRCom launch. Chelsea Lawson Newman, Melissa Claire Egan, tells Victoria she didn't know anything about this and says she wouldn't have okayed the article. And Chelsea and Victoria quickly realize this is Victor's handiwork. Phyllis sees the story and worries that Jabot is going under because, of course, she wanted to get her claws on it. So she goes to ask Jack about it. Clearly, Phyllis is still hoping to get Jabot, but I think Victor is going to write her a reality check instead. Fallout from Victor's scheme and Adam's betrayal. Tuesday, December 16th, we've got Billy and Sally scrambling to clean up the mess Adam and Victor made. Them trashing Jack isn't good for YandRCom either, but they may reassure the party guests that this is just another scurrilous tabloid trash piece by Newman Media that's known for shoddy reporting. Meanwhile, Victor gloats because he thinks he's bested Jack. And of course, Victor's thrilled thinking he's ruined Jack's, Peter Bergman, reputation and his company without even using the AI. But I think there's karma coming the mustache's way. Chelsea absolutely blasts Adam for going off script and caving into Victor's insane demand to write this trashy article. And he didn't even warn Chelsea. And of course, Adam is going to try and explain himself, excusing this blindside by saying that Victor gave him no choice. Nikki's confrontation and new alliances forming on YandR. Wednesday, December 17th, Nikki learns about the dirty move that Victor made trying to ruin Jack. It is well past time for Nikki to confront Victor. We already saw Nikki eavesdropping. She knew this was Victor's plan. So why didn't she intervene? Jack retaliates against Victor. And I think Jack might hit back both personally and professionally because this is far from over. Claire Grace Newman, Haley Aaron, and Kyle agree to join forces against Audra Charles Zuleika Silver. They want to destroy her, but I don't think she's going to take Claire and Kyle plotting against her lying down. She already threatened Claire. Legal threats and a surprising deal between Billy and Phyllis. Thursday, December 18th, we've got Kyle sending Summer Newman, Allison Lanier, a message, and it's probably about Jack shutting down Jabot short-term because her granddad is engaged in cybercrime against his enemies using a stolen AI program. And I do wonder if this is a hint that Summer could be on her way back to Genoa City. Jack pushes to hold Adam and Chelsea accountable. So, I'm wondering if Jack is going to sue Newman Media for publishing speculative, unsubstantiated, inflammatory, and generally libelous things about Jack. I'm sure Adam knew this was a possible, if not a likely outcome. But maybe he thought Victor needed to just find out what happens. Maybe he thought his dad needed to face some consequences, and his dad wouldn't back down. Anyway, Billy cuts a deal with Phyllis, and I wonder if she's going to be a source for YandRCom to run a counter-hit piece on Victor. Marriage troubles and escalating danger in Genoa City on Young and the Restless. Friday, December 19th, we've got Diane turning to Michael for help. She wants proof against Victor that he's doing these cybercrimes, but nothing's been done against them. Not yet. Just this libelous article. So, I don't think Michael would help her with anything that would wind up getting Victor arrested, but Michael might help Diane find and destroy the AI, thinking he's protecting Victor from his own worst impulses. The Nick Newman, Joshua Morrow versus Matt Clark, Roger Howarth. Drama gets dangerous again on Friday. I'm down for a fight to the death. Nick killed Ashland Locke, Robert Newman. So he might take the trash out that is Matt since he is such a threat to Sharon Newman, Sharon Case. Jack causes problems in Victor and Nikki's marriage by the end of the week. And we may have Jack pressing Nikki on basically being as bad as Victor for being complicit by enabling his destructive, vengeful actions. Victor has this whole misread on that night of debauchery when Jack did nothing but save Nikki's life and get her into rehab. Matt orders dirty Detective Annie Stewart, Catherine Kresge, to get to Sienna in the GCAC and handle his cheating wife. I'm guessing that means dead and permanently. So Matt's going to be mad to find out that was a false lead and Noah Newman, Lucas Adams, has Sienna stashed on the ranch. Christmas week spoilers and holiday YandR schedule. The week of December 22nd through the 26th, if Young and the Restless does like they have in past years, we should get 4 new episodes Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday with a rerun on Christmas Day, Thursday, December 25th. Unless CBS Daytime decides to deal a rerun on Christmas Eve, too. But generally they don't. Nikki is stunned by the extent of Victor's chicanery as we head into the week of December 22nd. But Victor tells Nikki, "Don't worry about it. This is nothing for you to concern yourself with." And Nikki just kind of nods and floats away. So, this is on her too for letting him get away with it. Also, Diane and Michael cook up a plan. Chelsea has an ultimatum for Adam, And I think she wants him to stop being Daddy Victor's henchman or else. Chelsea's feeling really grimy about this latest move they made, and she doesn't like it. This isn't what she came on board to do. Also, YandRCom is off to a rocky start. The chandeliers of the Genoa City Athletic Club flickered, but for Nikki Newman, the world had narrowed to a single, freezing point of fury. She wasn't just angry. She was vibrating with a primal, tectonic rage that threatened to level every skyscraper in the skyline. Across the velvet-draped table sat Adam Newman, looking every bit the smug prodigal son, sipping a scotch as if he hadn't just systematically dismantled everything Nikki held dear. The catalyst. The confrontation had been brewing for weeks. Adam's latest play, a calculated leak of Nikki's private medical records combined with a hostile takeover attempt of her beloved wellness foundation, wasn't just business. It was a surgical strike at her dignity. "You look tense, Nikki," Adam said, his voice a smooth, oily caress. "Maybe a trip to the ranch? Some fresh air might clear that cloud over your head." Nikki didn't speak. She stood up slowly, the silk of her designer gown whispering against the chair. The silence in the dining room grew heavy. Even the waitstaff paused, sensing the shift in atmospheric pressure. The boiling point. "You are a Cancer, Adam," Nikki whispered, her voice low and terrifyingly steady. "A rot that my husband mistakenly allowed to fester in this family because he clings to the delusion that you have a soul." Adam chuckled, setting his glass down. "We're Newmans, Nikki. Souls are overhead costs we can't afford. You, of all people, should know." Crack. The sound of Nikki's palm meeting Adam's cheek echoed like a gunshot. The entire room went silent. Adam's head snapped to the side, a bright red bloom spreading across his jaw. He didn't move. He just stared at the table, his eyes darkening. "I am not done," Nikki hissed, leaning over him until she was inches from his face. "You think you've won? You think a few leaked files and a boardroom maneuver make you the king? You're a boy playing with matches in a house made of stone. The brutal punishment begins." Nikki didn't just want to hurt Adam. She wanted to erase his leverage. She pulled a slim, leather-bound folder from her clutch and dropped it onto his lap. "Open it," she commanded. Adam, regaining his composure, smirked as he flipped the cover. But as he read, the smirk vanished. His skin went pale, then a sickly shade of gray. "Where did you get this?" he stammered. "While you were busy playing hacker with my life, I was talking to your old associates in Las Vegas," Nikki said, her voice dripping with ice. "It turns out, the paper trail for that shell company you used to funnel Newman Media funds wasn't as buried as you thought. It leads directly to a federal indictment. The ultimatum. Nikki wasn't calling the police yet. She was doing something much worse. She was stripping him of his identity. As of 5 minutes ago," Nikki continued, "Victor has signed over the power of attorney regarding your trust to me. Every cent, every property, every share of stock you claim to own is now under my direct supervision. You are officially on an allowance, Adam. And if you so much as breathe in the direction of the press, I hand this folder to the Department of Justice." The fall of the prodigal son. Adam surged to his feet, his chair screeching against the floor. "You can't do this. My father would never." "Your father is the one who gave me the folder, Adam." Nikki lied with the precision of a master assassin. She knew Victor hadn't seen it yet, but in this moment, the perception of Victor's betrayal was the ultimate blade. Adam looked around the room. He saw the elite of Genoa City watching his public execution. He saw the pity in some eyes and the naked joy in others. He was stripped bare, powerless, and tethered to the woman he had spent years trying to undermine. "You will move out of the penthouse tonight," Nikki ordered. "You will take a desk in the basement of Newman Towers, data entry. No title, no secretary, no power. You will work there until I decide you've earned the right to look me in the eye again." The aftermath. Adam stood frozen, his hands shaking. The brutal punishment wasn't a prison cell. It was the humiliation of being kept on a leash by the woman he despised most. Nikki picked up his scotch, took a slow, deliberate sip, and set it back down. "Clean yourself up, Adam. You have a shift starting at 6 a.m. She turned and walked out of the club, her head held high, the clicking of her heels the only sound in the room. She had boiled over, yes, but she had channeled that heat into a forge, and in it, she had broken. The grand ballroom of the Abbott mansion was thick with the scent of expensive lilies, and even more expensive perfume. It was the YandRCom relaunch gala, a night intended to celebrate the seamless merger of Jabot's heritage and Chancellor Winter's tech-forward vision. Crystal chandeliers cast a golden glow over Genoa City's elite. Jack Abbott stood near the mahogany bar, smoothing the front of his tuxedo, a look of hard-won satisfaction on his face. Beside him, Diane Jenkins Abbott looked radiant in a floor-length emerald gown, her eyes scanning the room for any sign of a Nicky Newman-sized storm cloud. "It's perfect, Jack," Diane whispered, touching his arm. "The board is happy, the press is captive. Nothing can go wrong." Jack smiled, though the veteran of 1,000 corporate wars knew better than to tempt fate. "Let's just hope Kyle and Billy can stay on the same page for the duration of the speeches." Across the room, Kyle Abbott was indeed locked in a tense, polite conversation with Billy. Billy, nursing a club soda, looked restless. The merger had given him a seat at the table, but he still felt like the odd man out in the family dynasty. "Just remember," Kyle said, his voice low and sharp, "the teleprompter is for the vision statement. No ad-libbing about corporate soul or the Abbott legacy unless it's in the script." Billy smirked. "Relax, nephew. I'm the new face of AbbottCom's digital outreach. I know how to talk to the masses." The toast. As the clock struck 9, Jack stepped onto the small dais, tapping a crystal flute with a silver spoon. The room fell into a respectful hush. "Friends, family, and rivals," Jack began, offering a pointed nod toward Victor Newman, who stood at the back of the room like a gargoyle in a bespoke suit. "Tonight, we don't just celebrate a company. We celebrate a future where tradition meets innovation. AbbottCom is..." Crash. The heavy oak double doors at the entrance didn't just open. They hit the walls with the force of an explosion. The music stopped. Every head turned. Standing in the doorway, drenched from a sudden Midwestern downpour and looking like a vengeful spirit, was Ashley Abbott. But this wasn't the polished, Parisian chic Ashley the family had seen months ago. Her hair was windblown, her eyes darting with a frantic, electric energy. She wasn't alone. Flanking her were 2 men in dark suits, process servers. The interruption. "Stop the music. Stop the lies." Ashley's voice rang out, cracking with an intensity that made Jack drop his glass. It shattered on the marble, the sound echoing like a gunshot. "Ashley." Jack stepped down from the dais, his face pale. "My God, you're supposed to be in Tuscany. What is this?" Ashley marched into the center of the ballroom, the crowd parting like the Red Sea. She ignored Jack, her gaze fixed entirely on Diane. "The future of this company is built on a foundation of theft," Ashley declared, her voice trembling but loud. "I have just filed an emergency injunction in the High Court. All assets of the AbbottCom merger are frozen effective immediately." The room erupted into murmurs. Victor Newman's eyebrows shot up. He looked like a man watching a very entertaining play he hadn't had to pay for. "Ashley, you're not well." Kyle stepped forward, trying to sound authoritative but failing to hide his alarm. "We discussed the patents. You signed off on the transfer." "I signed nothing," Ashley screamed, spinning toward him. "Or rather, I didn't. Which version of me did you trick, Kyle? Was it the one who trusts you? Or the one who sees right through this family's obsession with Diane's redemption arc?" The revelation. One of the process servers stepped forward, handing a thick envelope to a stunned Billy. "It's a forensic audit request," Billy muttered, scanning the first page. "She's alleging that the intellectual property for the new Glow line was diverted through a shell company in the Caymans, registered to Diane." The silence that followed was suffocating. Diane's face went from emerald green envy-inducing to deathly white. "Jack, I don't know what she's talking about. I've been here with you every step of the way." "Have you?" Ashley stepped into Diane's personal space, her breath hitching. "Because while you were playing the doting wife, your old friends in the Los Angeles underworld were busy setting up backdoors into our servers. I found the trails, Jack. I found the money." Jack looked between his sister and his wife. The old wounds of the Abbott family, distrust, betrayal, and the ghost of John Abbott, seemed to bleed through the floorboards. "Ashley," Jack said, his voice breaking, "this is a public event. If you have proof, we go to the office. We handle this as a family." "We aren't a family anymore, Jack," Ashley whispered, her eyes finally filling with tears. "We're just a collection of secrets held together by a brand name." The aftermath. The party was over. The socialites began to drift toward the exits, whispering into their phones, the scandal already hitting the GC buzz headlines before the first valet could bring a car around. Victor Newman walked past Jack on his way out. He stopped for a brief second, placing a heavy hand on Jack's shoulder. "I told you, Jack," Victor said, his voice a low rumble. "When you play with fire, you get burned. But when you marry the fire, you lose the whole house." As the ballroom emptied, the lights seemed to dim. Jack, Ashley, Billy, and Diane stood in a circle of broken glass and discarded hors d'oeuvres. The AbbottCom logo, projected in neon blue on the wall behind them, flickered and then died. The merger was dead. And as Ashley turned and walked back out into the rain without another word, it looked like the Abbott family in Genoa City rarely settles. It just shifts, waiting for the next gust of ambition to kick it up again. In the wake of Victor Newman's most convoluted scheme to date, a masterstroke involving the staged collapse of a shell company designed to bait his enemies, the fallout wasn't just financial. It was foundational. The great architect's silence. In the hallowed, dimly lit library of the Newman Ranch, Victor Newman sat behind his mahogany desk, the glow of the fireplace dancing off a glass of rare scotch. He looked every bit the Victor, yet his eyes betrayed a flicker of something rare, exhaustion. His scheme had worked perfectly. He had lured the Abbott family and various corporate vultures into a sure-thing investment that turned out to be a hollowed-out trap. He had protected the Newman legacy, but the cost was the total alienation of his youngest son. Victor had used Adam as the face of the failure, knowing Adam's reputation would make the trap more believable. He told himself it was a test of loyalty, a trial by fire. But as the phone lines remained silent and the stock market news buzzed with the Newman disaster, Victor realized he might have finally burned the one bridge he spent years trying to rebuild. The sting of the scorpion, Adam's betrayal. While Victor sat in his castle, Adam Newman was in a cold, sterile hotel room, staring at the neon lights of the city. He wasn't crying, he was vibrating with a cold, calculated rage. For months, Adam had tried to be the good son. He had checked his darker impulses, sought his father's approval, and worked within the lines. To find out he was merely the sacrificial lamb in Victor's game against Jack Abbott was the final straw. But Adam didn't just walk away. He had anticipated the great man's treachery. Before the shell company collapsed, Adam had diverted proprietary Newman Media algorithms, the very tech that drove their market dominance, into a private offshore entity. He hadn't just left the company, he had effectively lobotomized its digital future. He wanted a monster, Adam whispered to the empty room, so I'll give him the one he created. Collateral damage, the Newman-Abbott nexus. The ripple effects of Victor's scheme tore through the rest of the family like a physical force. Victoria Newman, usually the most loyal lieutenant, Victoria found herself blindsided. The legal ramifications of Victor's shell company were leaking into the legitimate arms of Newman Enterprises. She faced a board of directors who were no longer afraid of Victor's growl, but terrified of his instability. Nick Newman, Nick, ever the moral compass, saw this as the ultimate proof that the Newman name was a curse. His attempt to mediate between Victor and Adam ended in a shouting match that left him estranged from both. The Abbott reaction, Jack Abbott, having narrowly escaped financial ruin thanks to a last-minute tip, the source of which remained mysterious, was no longer interested in corporate competition. He wanted blood. The betrayal of trust between the two titans had shifted from a chess match to total war. The confrontation at Society. The tension peaked 3 days later at Society, the neutral ground where Genoa City's elite pretend to be civil. When Victor walked in, the room went quiet. A moment later, Adam entered. They didn't exchange greetings. The air between them was thick with decades of resentment. "You think you won, Pop?" Adam said, his voice carrying just enough to reach the surrounding tables. "You protected the walls of the fort, but you forgot to check who was holding the keys to the gate." Victor stood tall, his voice a low rumble. "I did what was necessary for the family. You were never strong enough to see the big picture, Adam. You always let your ego get in the way of the legacy." "The legacy is a tomb," Adam retorted. "And I'm the only one who realized it before the door was sealed. I've taken what's mine. From now on, when you look at the Newman name, you're going to see exactly what you've become, a man ruling over a kingdom of ghosts."